the Elul Niggin, written by Eitan Katz. We'll sing it a few times through to get us in the mood. Ay, ay, alay, ay, 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 alalay, ay, ala, da, 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 da. Ay, ay, alay, ay, 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 alalay, ay, ala, na, 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 na. Na, 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 na. Ay, 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 alay, alay, ay, 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 la, 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 ay, la, 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 ay, la, 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 la. Ay, ay, la, la, ay, ay, la, la, ay, la, 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 la. Da, 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 da. Ay, 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 da, da, da. Ay, 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 ay. Alay, la, 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 alay, la, la, la. Ay, la, 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 la. Ay, ay, la, la, ay, la, la, la. Ay, la, 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 la. Da, 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 ba, da. Ay, alay, ay, ay, alay. Ay, ay, da, da, da. Ay, 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 ay. Ay, la, 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 ay, la, la, la. Ay, la, 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 la. Ay, ay, la, la, ay, ay, la, la. Ay, la, 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 la. Da, 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 da. Do you see what we just did there? We created sacred space, singing together, alone, apart, as is the world of Zoom. But singing is one way that we create the vortex in which we can settle through sound and our voices, and perhaps even in the longing to be together. Boy, how we wish to hear each other's voices. Wouldn't that be something? So welcome to More Joy, Less Oi, Learning and Yearning and Returning, which is a project of the Federation CJA and Jewish Community Foundation of Montreal. And we thank them for their support in this experimental idea of pulling together 4 congregations, 5 rabbis, and collaborating in a way to move us through on the moving sidewalk that is our calendar. This is the first of 3 Elul offerings, and those of you who are here have already signed up for them, I'm sure. And then there'll be a number of high holiday experiences. So what a ride we are on. My name is Rabbi Jan Salzman. I am here actually in my synagogue. That's not a green screen. This is astounding. In the heart of Burlington, Vermont, Ruach Hamaqom, which occupies the oldest synagogue in the state of Vermont. As many of you know, we're on Zoom. If you have questions, or when it's time when I ask for some responses, to use the chat room. At this moment, we're going to keep everybody muted. So if you want to communicate, Anita Silver, who is our administrator, she is going to be monitoring the chat room. So if you want to say anything, that's how you do it. So my friends, a few words, and then we'll move into how we actually create sacred space. So this year, we really get to dismantle the performative nature of congregational life. It's gone. What do I mean by this? That few of us are going to file into a room and watch someone do it. We get to do it instead, in the privacy of our own homes, and lacking the look of the other, of all the embodied excitement and invitation that comes from being together. You remember that, right? Of the resonance of spirits joined in song. We are each our own greeter at the door. How shall we do this? How can we take this role seriously, with dignity and reverence, with joy and eagerness, all wrapped up in one bundle, so that the doorway you walk through this year to honor the holy days and nights are of your own making. You get to change how you meet your own needs, one that will connect you with the past, the present, and the future. And so tonight, we're going to play around, holy play, with the idea of creating sacred space. Because what happens when you walk into a synagogue or a church or a museum or any holy place, and it doesn't even have to be a building. What happens when you walk into a cathedral that is in the middle of the forest, formed by arching branches of trees above you? It's a portal, right? You walk into a portal, and you perhaps notice that you act differently when you walk through that portal. The grandness of your new environment affects you on a lot of different levels. If we strip this experience to its bare essence, it is composed, at least for me in this moment, of sight, of smell, of feel, even of taste. So it's a little bit of history about being a human being, okay? So when we moved from small tribal gatherings into centralized location for our worship, we lost a little bit, or maybe even a lot of, our own initiative. The priest said all the incantations. We did little but bring our offerings, even if we were fully engaged in the transformative nature of making an offering. We tended to expect that someone else would move us. And that has become ever more crystallized for religious services ever since, probably the middle of the 1700s, especially for Jews, when in the 1700s, the 1800s, we recreated what our synagogues looked like. So suddenly everybody was facing forward, and we took the rabbi from the back of the room and we put the rabbi in the front of the room, and now he's got to give a sermon every week. Rabbis rarely gave sermons, and we changed the whole perspective of, instead of everybody in their own little pew davening their own little davening, right, making their own energy, we suddenly were sitting in pews, looking forward, asking somebody else to do it for us. Even if we were engaged, the whole tableau changed. And that's not possible this year. And that's the challenge, and I'm into it. I think it's a great experiment. So now, in some weird way, we are back to where humans began. small groups huddled around the holy campfire of Zoom, yearning to figure out a way to get our hearts to be moved. And why? Why do we do it? So that the stirrings can be deep, bringing up the mud from the bottom of the pond in order to settle back down again, refreshed and aerated. I want to emphasize something really, really important. Creating a sacred space is not a rational activity. It is absolutely, if you'll excuse the big words, the existentialism of being, right? This is not rational. To create a sacred space so that you, I, can actually do the work of opening up a different channel. Reb Zalman used to say, you know, what frequency is it that in internal radio is going on? You got to change the channel inside of you so you can receive different frequencies, right? And how do you do that? Tonight, we're going to explore it through the creation of sacred space. So this is absolutely the opposite of rational. It is nonsensical. It is a world of archetypes, of dreams, of imagination, of feeling, of what is called devkut, of drawing closer, and karov, of drawing near. Creating sacred space so that we are ready to engage in whatever Zoom and Truman we're going to be doing will allow us a little better chance to actually allow the liturgy and the experience of the high holidays to work into our beings and change our channel. Vasuli mikdash v'shochanti b'tocham Va'asuli mikdash v'shochanti b'tocham. Make sacred space for me to dwell, and I will be with you. Make sacred space for me to dwell, and I will be with you. Va'asuli mikdash v'shochanti b'tocham. Make, it says in the Torah, make me a place, God says, so that I can be with you. V'shochanti, so I can be present to you, so that we can be together. And of course, during the month of Elul, we're also chanting Psalm 27, where we're saying, all I want is to dwell in your house, right? And so there's the image of this whole month is yearning to be able to be and dwell in each other's presence. Creating a sacred space in your home, as we're going to talk about in a few minutes, is a way to create something in our tradition that's called a mizbeach. A mizbeach is usually understood as the altar, right? And you bring your offerings to the altar. It's a table of stones, but it's also, you know, in many, many places in Torah. Abraham makes it, Jacob makes one, Noah makes one. Whenever they would have a big fight and peace was accorded, they would make a sacred space. And eventually, of course, as you know, they created the Mishkan. We'll talk a little about that in a moment. So a mizbeach is a place that becomes a concrete, and sometimes it is concrete, right? But it is a concrete place that you can touch and see and feel. All of our people were altar makers. They grounded themselves literally in the experience to help them remember something. They might have anointed a rock with oil, or they'd make a pact, but they made it touchable and they made it come alive. So when our forefathers, in the story, in the Torah, right, they would take a stone and they would anoint it with oil. Why the heck did they do that? What is going on there, right? So they're taking this rock and they're bringing a little bit of juice to it so that the rock itself can absorb the memory of what the pact is. It's primordial. Children do this. It's an archetype. We take now, as we are in this time of COVID, and you notice I say COVID, not COVID, because COVID is honor, and it's a Yiddishy way of saying we're honoring our time. So I'm never going to say COVID. I'm always going to say COVID because this is the time we're in. We now take the time to honor our journey through the holy days. So where do we do it? Let's just talk a little bit about this. In the corner of your room, in the corner of your house, in front of here's a really important suggestion for whatever Zooming you're going to be doing during the high holidays. The deepest suggestion is don't do it on your iPhone. Don't do it on your iPad. Put it up on your television screen. Get the biggest screen you can get going, because otherwise you know what happens, right? If you can give it on as big screen as possible, maybe there's a chance that you'll actually get immersed in what you're doing. How can the place that you are creating, that you're wanting to be seen and you want to see, right? That's when our ancestors created the Mizbeach, it was with the sole purpose of seeing and being seen by God. That's all they wanted. I want you to see, God, that I'm bringing you this offering because I made it through childbirth. I want to bring you this offering, God. I want you to see that we've got discord on our community and we're really working on it and we need some help, or that we've solved the problem and we're so happy. Hola, we send it up. We come to the sacred place so that we can see, but even more important, so that we can be seen. We need to literally behold. We need to be held, okay? To behold is to be held, right? So we want to be held. We want to be in the presence of our longings, of our yearnings, of our failures, of our successes, right? Ritual forms the moving sidewalk of going from disengaged to engaged. And ritual takes place in a sacred space. Hence, we are here now. So what are the constituents of a sacred space? So I get a lot of my inspiration from the last 3 parshot of Exodus, and then as it moves into Leviticus, Vayikra, which is one of my favorite books in the entire Hebrew Bible. Okay, wait, a digression. What's going on with Leviticus, right? So they could have put that book anywhere else in the entire scroll, right? But no, they put it right in the middle. They interrupt the narrative of our escape from Egypt by giving a little foreshpice of it. You know, the last 3 parshiot of Exodus is all about the temple, about building the Mishkan, and they interrupt the narrative, and we don't pick it up again until the book of Numbers. What is that about? One of my teachers when I was at Hebrew College, Nehemiah Poland, taught that if you count the words in from one end of Torah to the other, you arrive in the center of Torah. And some people count by letters and some people count by words. The point is darosh darash. That's the center. It's 2 words, mirror, right, in the very center. And he taught it means look within. So the Torah itself, even as it's arranged in the scroll, says the most essential part of doing this thing we're doing with the God is in the form of how we approach the sacred space and how we create the sacred space. The other thing he taught, which was just profound, is that Mount Sinai was vertical. Moses goes up, hangs out with God on top of the mountain, comes back down with Torah. You all know the story. Nehemiah Poland says that your Mizbeach, the Mishkan, is Mount Sinai lying down. So that as you walk into your sacred space, it's as if you are climbing Mount Sinai, to be in that total Vulcan mind meld with the Holy One of blessing. And that's the space that you are creating. So I think about those Torah portions that, oh my God, they're just so beautiful. You've got such incredible beauty. So beauty is one of the components of your sacred space. Let me back up for just a moment. How are we going to do it, right? So you're going to make a place in your home. You can't see behind me because I couldn't figure out how to work the cameras, but right behind me is a large platter. And I have assembled, and I'll show some of them to you in a few minutes. I've assembled objects that I wanted to include in my sacred space for tonight's creation. And so what's really, really important in my mind is this. We need beauty. We need smell. We need things that are visual. We need things that are splayed out in the 4 directions. The Torah is really, really, really clear that the 12 tribes were seated in groups of 3 in the points of the compass. The Mishkan, the tabernacle, is set up according to the points of the compass. There is some commentary that then places each tribe in its astrological position around the core of the Mishkan. So visually oriented with some kind of a grid splayed out in the 4 directions, I think is a really, really important component of your sacredness, your sacred place. And then fire. So what is the Mishkan created? It created out of beauty. It was created out of smell, because this is a God who loves Reach Nichoach, loves the smell of a good barbecue. This God does not sit down and eat with us, doesn't want our food, except for one place in Torah, but doesn't want our food. What God really wants, according to our mythic history, is God wants the smell. So smell is a really, really important component to creating sacred space. And then fire. What was inside the Mishkan? There was bread. There was the menorah that the Zeldel created out of one piece of gold, hammered it all out. It had almond blood. It was just like this incredible thing, and it brought light. So one component of your sacred altar, of your space that you're setting up, should have something to do with fire. So where do you put this thing? You want to put it in a place in your home where you're actually going to sit at it and be at it. So when you've got Zoom going, right, you actually can put your sacred space in front of you. And by assembling your sacred objects on your plate or on your table or on your beautiful caftan or whatever you're putting it on, by building it with great intention, you begin to walk your way into the depths of the Mishkan, where you're going to lose a little bit of your ego. You're going to lose a little bit of your harsh distinctions. You will become more of what Rabbi Salzman used to say, you got to have semi-permeable cell walls. Stuff has got to go out and stuff has got to come in. We soften our hard places when we do sacred act. So let me show you what I have assembled on my little altar for these things. Okay, so the first thing we talked about was beauty. And what I found, I have my grandmother's box of silk flowers. So in the 20s, they would wear, clothes, but then they would pin something beautiful to their clothing to sort of dress up. Because people didn't have a lot of clothes. They had a few pieces of clothes, but they had lots of decoration. And so on my altar, I have brought one of my grandmother's silk roses to symbolize a few things, actually. One is just the beauty. By bringing a flower into my life and putting it on my shoulder, I'm just bringing a little bit of beauty into the world. My friends, for about 10 years, I was a landscaper. And that was my job. My job was to bring beauty into this world. So I think this is a really important component. So this is beauty. You might also have something beautiful that is a beautiful fabric. It might be real flowers. It might be something that your kid made you in clay class that is just so beautiful because of the way they gave it to you. Yeah? So beauty, bringing something, creating beauty so that you can look at it is a way to transform get out of our rational place and get into our non-rational, irrational. Okay, so scent. So I have here a bag of cedar chips. And I want to, as you all know, the olfactory memory is the oldest memory that we have as human beings. When you inhale something that has scent, that's why we use scents for Havdalah, bring the end of Shabbos. The sense of smell is profound. And so as you prepare to go into whatever liturgical experience you might be having, you're getting ready to go to a Zoom Rosh Hashanah morning or a Yizkor or whatever it might be, you've got beauty to look at, place that on your altar. Take something that smells really good, inhale that, and put it on your altar. There might be something visual. A pomegranate. A friend gave this to me many years ago, and it's beautiful, but it's also something to contemplate because it's got this opening. Pomegranates are very sexy. They're filled with fertility. That's why Aaron wore them on the bottom of his priestly robes, right? It was part of his outfit, is that he had pomegranates hitting off with gold balls on the bottom of his robe as he walked into the holy place. So I really like pomegranates. So this is, again, another portal. If I think about my object, this is something to look at, to think about fertility. It might be something to think about, what are the seeds that are waiting to erupt out of me, right? What is waiting to germinate inside of me? So you see what you can do. You take an object and suddenly you're riffing on it. Another thing I brought to my little altar, and I'm going to ask you guys to go get some altar pieces in just a second, so it's not just Rabbi Jan's show and tell. The other thing that I brought is a little teeny tiny Torah that a former congregant of mine gave me many years ago. And I just wanted to bring a little bit of Torah onto my altar, into my sacred space. Because for me, when I engage with Torah, I seriously lose my rational mind and I enter into the journey of the archetype and digging for meaning and curiosity and et cetera, right? So that's something I put on my altar. This is a rock a friend of mine made me. Aleph, Tet. 2 letters of the word emes, of truth. It's from the beginning all the way to the end. It's a nice rock, and a friend gave it. But I want to embrace it, giving me the sense that that I'm trying to bring everything. I'm bringing from the first letter, from A to Z. I want to bring into my sacred space, so that I'm not leaving anything out as I enter into Avinu Malkeinu, right? And finally, I brought photos of my family. How sweet is that, right? When we were little and young, when the kids were young, when everything was just a very different reality now. I now have grandkids. Sometimes it's really nice to bring in a photo. Who taught you something? Who was a teacher of yours? Who was a special friend of yours? Who represented a place where you were pushed and you had to grow, right? So bringing a photo into your sacred space is often a way to invoke all kinds of memories, but also not always great memories, right? Sometimes it's painful memories, but it's also those places where you grew. Who did you love? Who did you respect? Who influenced you? Bringing them into the sacred space as you journey through the high holidays. So here's what I want you to do. This is the show and tell part. I want you to get up from wherever you're sitting. I can't see you because I'm just looking at one face here. So I don't know, I don't get to see you, but here's your job, is right now, get up from wherever you're sitting, walk around where you are, whether it's your home or maybe you're outside, and bring back to the screen something that you would like to include on your altar, to create your sacred space. And while you're doing that, I will play a little bit of music. So get up, go on, go get something. When you come back, if you've got the gallery view on, you can show everybody your object. So you may want to go get something that's just beautiful. What would you put on your altar? Maybe you want to bring something that has a really good smell. Bring it back. Maybe you want to bring something back to your space that you just really love looking at. And bring back some fire. How will you personalize your sacred space? What symbolic objects, memorabilia, things from nature, that pine cone you picked up many years ago in the sequoia forest. And when you have it, if you aren't already, switch to gallery view and just hold up your object. And if you want to, type into the chat, tell us something a little bit about the object that you have brought. And if you would like to, Anita, I'm not sure how we're going to do this, but if somebody would like to unmute themselves and tell us a little bit about the object that you've brought, that would be great. Okay?
I brought a picture of my grandparents in front of their house, taken probably in the 1940s in a beautiful frame. And I brought this wonderful sounding orb, which has magical ringing sounds inside of it. And I brought a little bundle of lavender that I picked for a friend's wedding. It smells really good. It was 3 years ago, the wedding, and it still smells good.
Thank you. Thank you. Anybody else want to share what they've brought?
Yes.
Go for it.
Okay. This is my picture with my grandson, Jonathan Teitelbaum, at his bar mitzvah. Now he is 20 years old, and he comes every day to walk near my place to see his grandma. And we go for a short walk together. That's it. Thank you for sharing the memory.
Thank you. Does someone else want to show? We're getting a lot of feedback, so I'm not sure how to fix that, but somebody else next? Yeah?
I brought something, it's kind of hard to see, but when you said the 4 directions, it's a compass that's been in my family, and it's definitely, it's over 100 years old. So it's for and it's actually, for when people definitely needed compasses to navigate and get places.
That's beautiful. And of course, a compass, what a great symbol, right? Right?
Yeah, that's
Like,
what I
where am I
thought
going?
too.
And
Yes.
especially, so, sometimes we create these objects. I'll just riff on you just for a little bit. So when you bring your sacred objects to your sacred space to create it, that you're also thinking a little bit deeply about it as well. What would symbolize my journey through the high holidays? Where are the places that I feel lost? What is my compass? How do I find that point north, right? And
Right.
so some of our objects can help us to go join the challenge of the holy days, which deeply, deeply, deeply wants you to disentangle and rebuild.
Yeah.
Thank you for the compass. That's beautiful.
And my mom, she loved camping. And so she, she used it for all that camping and hiking and going off into the woods.
Nice, nice. Thank you. All right. So, and after you've shared, be sure to turn yourself back mute. And is another person would like to share?
Yes. This is my wonderful friend, and his wonderful laughter taught me to belly laugh. I couldn't help myself but learn to belly laugh.
That's beautiful, Michelle. Yeah, beautiful. Anybody else want to share?
Yes, Rabbi Jan.
Yes.
I've been to your phenomenal temple. I wish everybody could see it there in Burlington, Vermont. It's absolutely a relic and phenomenally beautiful. I am the world's largest collector of harmonica cases, and this I'm holding here is a mezuzah made by a mezuzah maker. This is a mezuzah maker harmonica case. I can carry the mezuzah with me and play the harmonica when I need to. So this
yeah, go ahead.
Well, I was going to say it fits into the category of either beauty or mood and music.
And, if I may build on that just for a moment, a harmonica, like King David, the story is that he used to wake up in the middle of the night and there'd be a harp above his head, and wind would be blowing through it and creating music, and he would reach up and he would pull that harmonica down and begin to compose the psalms. And so a harmonica is a fascinating instrument because, like all blowing instruments, you have to put air into it. And when we put air into something, we literally enliven it, bring it to life. And also air is insubstantial too, so it's very ethereal. So harmonica is beautiful. Yeah, well, and of course music. That's music, right? Does someone else like to share their object?
Yes, I brought my Shekhinah sculpture, which is a gourd with an old esrog in the flax. So it has now, I don't know how many years old it is now, and it's, brown, and it's has a bed of flax and the cover of lace.
Right.
And I haven't looked at it for, I don't know, for a long time. And here I have the little rings from the esrog that were handmade.
Nice. From the
So
again,
the yin and
so
the yang.
symbolically, of course, even though we dry up, we still have a place, as well. Many of us get older, we start drying up, So we bring that to remind me, if I could riff on it, even bringing something, an old dried up fruit represents life that was, life that still is, right? Yeah. And then how do we reinvigorate? So sometimes during the high holidays, our journey is to feel all dried up. The invitation is to rehydrate, right? because
Yeah.
every year we get to this place where we feel all dried up. And if we can rehydrate ourselves, oh God, coming out of Yom Kippur, oddly, ironically, without any water, is a way to rehydrate our lives. So sometimes a symbol of something that's dried up actually means the opposite, something that's full of water. Thank you for that. Anybody else? We'll take a couple more.
Yes,
have something.
I would like to offer something.
Okay.
This is from, I think, 1880. It's a traveling inkwell.
Wow.
It actually, there is something in it that arrives from the fire, but I'll come to that in a minute. Inside this, I can't take it all apart. I need more dexterity right now. Inside this is a brass container. Inside the brass container is a glass container. That's where the ink was. What is in there now are my parents' ashes mixed together. They were very practical people. They did not want a gravesite. They did not want an urn. I went out and searched for this. And inside, 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 and there they are.
Beautiful, beautiful. Thank you, thank you. One or two more. Who else would like to share with the object that they picked up to make part of their sacred space? And remember, after you've spoken, mute yourself back.
Hello.
I have something.
Okay,
You want to go or should I go?
go for it, go for it. Picture, there you go. Hey, how you doing? Great, go for it.
Me?
So
Yeah. No, first, Janice next, first Judy.
Judith.
Go ahead. Okay.
So this is a candelabra that I welded myself, which is very empowering to weld. And it's all from scraps and found objects. And if you can see these two characters in the middle, you see these circles. These are old skeleton keys, and they're rusted. They're like 5 inches tall, and they're now made into people who are beacons of love. You see these hearts, and they're like wings, heart wings, and so they're beautiful for Yontif to light candles.
So that's beautiful. Again, so these are the objects. So what's the metaphor, right? So a key. Oh my God, what do I need to unlock in me this year for the high holiday? I need to unlock the love, or I need to throw away the key, perhaps. So there's always that balance between too much chesed and too much gevura, right? Where do I need to lock up a little bit? What do I need to unlock? And how can I turn that which kept me all locked up inside? How do I turn that into a place where I now can light a candle? So it's beautiful. So you see what I'm doing is I'm taking the objects that you're presenting and I'm riffing them, because it's important that they're not just objects.
No,
right?
well, that's the whole thing about why I work with these materials, because it's renewal, and it's also alchemy, the alchemy of rust. And transforming these discarded objects into holy sacred.
Beautiful. Thank you, Judith. And finally, one more from Janice. Let's and then remember to mute yourself again.
Okay. This came from my mother-in-law. It's she had I have a couple of these, but this is a special one because it has the flowers in it. And she was a mentor, a teacher, like a mother. She was a wonderful mother-in-law. And then I have a candle, which is patchouli smelling. It's very strong, and it reminds me of when I was young and felt very free and more hopeful than quite right now, times right now.
That's right. So thank you. So beautiful. So the objects that we bring to sacred space, everybody else has just got magnificent things, and I wish we had all night, but we don't. But now you know what it's like, right? So you go around when you're creating your altar, when you're creating your mizbeach, and you've set aside the space in maybe it's the coffee table in front of which, I'm going to ask Anita if you could mute all again. Can you mute all again? There you go, not me. When you walk through your home or your gardens and you're considering what it is you want to bring into your holy space, into creating your sacred space that will occupy, it'll be near you as you are zooming through whatever you're doing, as a way to give you something concrete and tangible, scented, beautiful, that's filled with your memories, but not just beauty, but also with what are the challenges. That's why I'm saying you don't just create an altar, a mizbeach that's, oh, isn't this all sweetness and light? The high holidays are about asking yourself those really, really difficult questions of where have I screwed up? How have I fallen off my own horse? What are the values and principles by which I so aspire to live by? Those objects can also represent your failures, because that's also, or your loss, because that's also really, really important. My friends, we're going to come in for a landing pretty soon. I want to share with you one more thought, at least one more thought, and that is the nature of prayer. For some of you may know this, but some of you may not, that the form of the word for prayer is a reflexive verb. Okay, so what do I mean by that? It's the part of Hebrew grammar that is, it's a word that, it's a form of a word, of a verb, that says I'm going to do something to change the nature of what I'm doing. So let's say if I'm going to get dressed, that's a I'm causing myself to get dressed. When we light the candles, lahadlik ner, right? We're causing the candles to be lit. We don't have this in English so much, but it's definitely there. It's a verb form in Hebrew. So the question is, prayer, tefillah, right, is, first of all, many of you know, it replaced bringing an offering to the temple, right? So when the temple's destroyed and we don't have any way to have that connection anymore with our God, the rabbis in their wisdom said, I'll tell you what, we can't bring any more animals or grains or flowers or whatever we were bringing into the Mishkan. We're going to, or the temple, we're going to replace that with prayer. The whole point of an offering was to be able to acknowledge that something had shifted and changed, and then letting it go. So when you create your sacred space, what are some of the places that you need to transform yourself? I was just sort of talking about that a few minutes ago. What are the objects that you want to bring into your sacred space, into your altar, onto your altar, that reminds you of the places that you need to transform and that you also need to let go of, right? So you can have lots of different objects on your tray. You may find that maybe on the first day of Rosh Hashanah, you've got certain objects on your tray. And then for Rosh Hashanah evening, you want to put different objects out there because now you're beginning to shift inside. And then second day Rosh Hashanah, we at More Joy, Less Oil will be offering a full day of programming. I hope you can join us. But put different objects on your tray, on your table, on your beautiful fabric, on your sacred altar. Allow the sacred space that you're creating for the high holidays to change as you are changing, allowing the process of the holy days to do its work. My friends, I opened this evening by saying that we are not in a paradigm right now where somebody up at the front of the room is going to be doing our praying for us. That is not what's happening this year. We are in this holy, wonderful, sacred place of having to do our own prayer, our own transformation, and using objects that you bring into your prayer, into your consciousness, changing them up every day. Maybe for the whole 10 days of the days of awe, from Rosh Hashanah to Yom Kippur, you're always changing different objects on your tray or whatever you've established. Maybe you will keep everything so that by the end of the holidays, you've got this pile of stuff, right? And then what happens? You have to put those things away, back onto the cupboard, back on the keychain, back into your jewelry box. So it's not just assembling the objects through which you are going to experience the work of inner shifting. You're also going to have to remember that you're going to have to put them away back after the holidays are over. What is that experience going to be like? Can you take your time to replace that photo of your grandmother back on the shelf with great kavanah, with great intention, thanking that photo for having accompanied you, me, through this time of the holidays? Animating the objects so that they speak to you and you speak to them, because they become your partners. You are partners with those objects or with those smells, right? As you work your way through the holy days. Something in us, each of us, has to change. That's why we're doing the work, so that we can identify and then gently, lovingly, but firmly make sure that the transformation is as distilled as possible, so that you can really come out of the holy days renewed. And of course, then what comes is Sukkot, so we get to harvest all of this work at Sukkah. So maybe you'll bring your objects that you cultivated for your sacred space, you'll bring them into the Sukkah. You can see where we're going. There's a lot of things that we can do with these objects that we pull in to help us create sacred space. So my friends, as we come in for a landing, I want to remind you again that the next couple of Wednesday nights, More Joy, Less Oy is going to be offering more incredible opportunities to study together and be together and experience together. I want to remind us again that the components that I find important in creating sacred space are beauty, smell, visual, and fire. You may have your own components, but that's what means a lot to me. So I want to, Cheryl Gilbert, Rabbi Cheryl, are you on the call, or Shachar? Would you like to say a few words as we sing our way out? See if you unmute yourself there. She didn't know I was going to ask her to do this, so this is not fair. Or Shachar.
I don't see Cheryl on the call.
Okay. So we'll just go out as we came in. Shachar, did you want to say something, my friend? I can't see it. Anyway, okay, enough. We'll just, or Mark or Jeremy, from our other teachers. Let's just sing our way out. So again, this is the niggin for Elul, the month in which we are in. You all know that Elul is an acronym for I am my beloved and my beloved is mine. This is a time we get in our tradition to feel the closeness and the lovingness of God, or whatever word you use, to go on this journey so that we don't feel like someone's up on a throne somewhere, at least right now. Ya ya la la ya ya la la ay la 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 ay la la ay la la ay la 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 ay I die, 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 die. I die, I die, I. And don't ever doubt it for a moment that our song is the best way, in my opinion, to create sacred space. Ay, ay, la, 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 ay, ay, la, 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 la. Ay, ay, la, la, ay, ay, la, la, ay, la, 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 la. Ay, da, 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 da. Ay, da, 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 da. Ay, da, 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 da. Ay, ay, da, da, ay, ay, la, 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 la. Ay, ay, la, 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 la. Ay, ay, la, la, ay, ay, la, la. Ay, la, 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 la. Da, 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 da. Ay, 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 la. Ay, 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 last time. Alay, la, 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 alay, la, la, la. Ay, ay, la, 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 la. Ay, ay, la, 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 alay, la, la, la. Ay, ay, la, 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 la. Ay, 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 Safe journeys, my friends. May we see each other in Sinai and in the Mizbeach, and may you have a holy, sacred time and fun and joy and holy play at creating your sacred space as we enter these holidays. Good night.
Amen.
Amen. Amen.
Thank you, Rabbi